Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Alrighty, welcome to Think Big. Guest today is Miss Samantha St. Raymond. Samantha, please tell us where you are in the world and what you do for a living.
Well, currently I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, getting ready for spring. So we get pretty excited around here when the tulips start to pop around. It's pretty cold during the winter. I'm an entrepreneur, inventor, philanthropist. So it's currently what I'm doing in life right now.
Amazing. Yeah, I love on your LinkedIn, the USPTO banner. I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, tell me a little bit about, I know your most recent venture, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like your most recent venture with the Yellow Dog Table. Can you tell me a little bit about, your background leading up to that, where you got the idea from, what kind of problem you saw out there in the world that you were trying to solve with it?
Well, I really didn't have a background as an inventor. This has kind of been the last maybe 6-7 years. So I've always been creative, but I didn't know I had an inventor mindset where I would be dealing with the USPTO trademarks, patents, and things like that. So this is kind of a later in life experience, which I really think is cool. And I encourage other people to follow those instincts or those passions. So Yellow Dog Table came from, I went down to Florida, down to the Gulf Coast area, and just to get out of St. Louis for a few minutes and just kind of regroup. And as I was sitting on the beach, I had an adult beverage. And at the time, I didn't have a chair with a cup holder in the chair. So I was setting my beverage and my book down on my towel or on the sand. And of course, you pick it up and it's just clumped with sand around the bottom of it. And just in my head, I'm like, well, how come there's not like a little side beach table, for the consumer? So that just started to click. And then I go home and just start doing some research. And at the time, there just wasn't anything. Now, if you had $1 billion beach house, there's plenty of tables and things like that, but nothing that was small and compact and portable. So I just started to do some sketch drawings and started to look around. And next thing I know, Yellow Dog Table came to life. So it was my very first product that I brought to market. And I say but actually my dad and I, who is a retired U.S. military veteran, we did this launch together. My dad or myself, we didn't have any, product development background or inventing or manufacturing, marketing, none of it. We just kind of learned together. So we took a course, an accelerated course that was being offered to veteran families. And we just started to learn how to do product development. And after a few prototypes and a few versions, Yellow Dog Table came to life. So basically, it's a small, compact square table. It's a 12 by 12 square. And the legs are detachable from under the unit, which was really important. Sand, corrosion, screws, links, things like that you don't really kind of want to mess with when you're dealing with outdoor sandy weather. So the legs detach from under the unit. They fit under the unit itself, under the tabletop. And then it all fits into a small carry tote bag, which can have dual purpose if you need to add things to the tote bag. And then one other unique feature, we left the legs hollow to fill with sand. So you set the table up, and then you kind of just squish it into the sand, and then you can take a handful of sand that's free, it's already available, it's right there on the beach, and just pour it into the leg tubes, wipe off the table, pat it down. And that actually added like 4 feet of weighted stability for the table, because anybody that's been on the beach anytime, the wind can pick up, umbrellas and things can start flying around.
Yep.
So we thought that was pretty cool to do that. And then the table's surface itself can be inkjet printed with anybody's name or logo. So we kind of opened it up, like Yellow Dog is our brand. And we chose the name Yellow Dog. The military and dogs are really important to me and my family. And we thought it would be kind of a fun play on words. You can't take dogs on the beach. So we kind of played it off as, you can take our yellow dog down on the beach. And then our tagline was, it sits, it stays, no training required. So we just kind of had fun with it. And again, it was this sand holding the table down that as a St. Louisan, we bag sand in this city to stop flooding coming into the city, right? If you go to any coastal community, sand is an annoyance to people. They're like, oh, there's just sand everywhere. So I remember we did this pitch competition, and I was talking about that on the stage. And I go, look, we're from St. Louis. We bag sand. I go, you guys just take it for granted because it's a free weighted use. And then when you lift up the table, the sand just disperses right where you found it, undo the legs, and put it all back in the tote bag. So it was a cool product. Very happy with it.
That's really awesome. And I wanted to ask you, I saw on the website that there is a private labeling section. So
yes.
How much would you say, to go into like specific numbers or anything, but like just kind of like as a percentage of, the revenue you're, generating with this brand, how much is it from your own personal sales, and how much is it coming from, the private labeling that you're allowing people to do and resell?
I think in the beginning, it was our brand primarily, just the yellow dog. But as we marketed more and let people know, then we were getting a lot of interest in the private labeling, like the Blue Angels that are based in Pensacola, Florida. Mm-hmm. We were able to get a licensing opportunity with them, and we put the Blue Angel logo on the table. And that was a really hot ticket item at that time for that. And then we did a couple with just some pictures of some beach scenery, and then people really like that. It's just all part of that same vibe. And we did a couple of one-offs. One family had like a family reunion, and they sent me this photo of their family reunion, and we went ahead and did that one, and that was really cool as well. Yeah, but I also had to learn very quickly that we had to start doing a minimum or maximum order, because I couldn't just print one picture of one thing. Right. But again, this is kind of those trials of things that you learn that you can do and things that you learn that you cannot do. So right now we have one, and we call it Emerald. That's a really popular one, but and we have a sunset or a sunrise. It's just really pretty. I think people just love that ocean view kind of look. But it's still, the Yellow Dog brand is the table. So we don't mind putting other people's logos and images on the table. It's a great giveaway. It's a great promotional item. It's just kind of fun to have. So that's kind
awesome.
Of now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I see you do have some, some retail stores around too, between Florida and a few others I remember seeing on the website. How much revenue are you doing between, your retail deals that you have, and then is it primarily online revenue you see from just like the original Yellow Dog table, like what's sold on the website?
Primarily online. A couple of the retail stores, when you're a new product developer, you don't have that type of distribution, right? And a lot of independent inventors will struggle with this. A lot of people came to me in the beginning, oh, this table needs to be in Walmart. And I'm like, well, it's not that simple just to walk into Walmart or any big retail chain store and place your product. There's many, many, many steps to get there. So I was very fortunate that some of these local retail spaces were giving me the space to put it up on the shelves. And it's kind of a bigger item too. So it's all about that retail space shelf life, right? Of how much shelf space do you have? So we would drop off 3, 4, 5 units at a time. But primarily, I think we were doing a lot of like little pop-up events. But I'm a boots on the ground grassroots effort. So my dad and I, we would walk the beach with units carried. And we would approach people as we were walking the beach. People say door to door. We just kind of took on that term beach to beach. And we would walk the beach and sell them on the beach. But again, it was just kind of getting our name out there and getting the product seen and recognized. And people, this is kind of it's not really a need. It's more of a spontaneous buy. It wasn't something that you would go seek out that you have to have kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So especially a lot of our sales now are through our website.
Gotcha. Yeah, and especially once you're there, which it makes sense you're in. It seems to be like a lot of stores that are like right next to the beach. That's what they seem like, just like looking at the names, right? Because that's exactly like you say. Like you forgot your chair, or you don't really like the chair that you have. You walk into like the beach store and you see a beautiful chair with a fun print, and you buy it because you're going to be at the beach all day and you want the chair. So I think that's a really great perspective on that. So where do you find?
Very much an impulse buy. Like you said, If you're going into a beach store, you're usually buying the little bucket with the shovel for the kids. You're buying the chair, the umbrella, the towels, things that you wouldn't normally bring with you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of tourism stuff that they're willing to leave behind. right? So if you go to any beach trash area, there's chairs and there's umbrellas just left there, and other people will use them or whatever. Yellow Dog Table is manufactured in the United States, so we're really proud of that as well. We don't have anything against outside of the country manufacturing whatsoever. I mean, this is the world that we live in, but we wanted to make our product here locally, and to sponsor and to support funding, all kind of circulating locally, which is what we did. But Yellow Dog Table will also fit in your suitcase, and people were traveling home with it, and the consumer will figure out what to do with a small beach table. So they actually ended up, I would get emails back, or I'd ask people, hey, how's it going with the table? Did you take it home with you? And they go, oh yeah, it's in my patio. It's in my backyard now. I use it in the bathroom. I put it next to my bathtub. I put my wine and my cell phone on it. So it ended the park, poolside, boating. It really became just this little portable travel table. So I actually ended up changing the name. It was Dad's idea. He goes, why don't we, change the name a little bit? And now we call it the Beach and Travel Table, because it does fit in other areas. But again, the consumer will figure out what they'll do with a product.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm curious too, since most of your sales are kind of online, even though you're doing some retail and the private labeling side of things, but from your online sales primarily, I'm just curious, like what kind of channels do you have set up to drive revenue through your online sales?
It's really just grassroots marketing, word of mouth, repeat buyers. I do a lot of Facebook ads. I'm really a big fan of, because it does, in the classes and the courses and things that we've learned along the way, just like anybody, you can scroll through your social media and you can see something once and you may stop and go, I'll think about that. And then you scroll right past, because we're inundated. There's so much product to think about buying. So one thing I do like about that type of Facebook marketing is, you sponsor the ad and then that particular person sees it over and over and over and over again. And then finally they'll stop. I mean, sometimes they have to see something 3, 4, 6 times before they'll actually stop and buy it. So we're not a largely funded organization. I mean, we're very small. So we rely on that. And of course, word of mouth, or people that order more than one, is always exciting for us as well. Now, this year, we're thinking about becoming an Amazon fulfillment. Whether or not, how you feel about Amazon, I hear different things, how people feel, but we can't deny that it's one of the largest online shopping portals that there are in the world. Right. And it takes a lot to build your own Amazon page to be a private seller on Amazon. So we thought about just becoming an Amazon fulfillment. Again, that just gets that product out there. And that's our main goal, is for the consumer to have the product, to have value when they're at the beach, especially if you have little ones. I've seen more kids just, my sandwiches got sand on it. It's a great personal little private table for younger people and adults too. If they want their adult beverage not sitting on the cooler, then you got to open you take your beverages off the cooler, you got to get inside the cooler. So it's just a very convenient little table. So that's the feedback that I get from it.
That's awesome. And from your Facebook ads, I mean, what kind of demographic or customer profiles are you finding are interacting with your ads the most?
Well, primarily when I was in Florida as a resident, I just put in different zip codes that were in that general area, right? Because we didn't want to overcharge for shipping and things like that. We wanted to keep it, again, where somebody would see the value and not have to pay $12, $15 to ship the product. So we focused on, those general beach town areas. And that was working for us. Because again, it's such a tourist area. I did venture out one time and I did Orlando, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. I kind of put some of those in there just to kind of test it and see. And we got a couple of hits off of that. But again, I think with that type of marketing, you have to do it over and over and over and over again. It has to be very, very consistent. And then we ran into COVID, right? Because we only launched in 2018. Right. I think COVID was 2019, I believe. So that first year, we were just trying to figure out what are we doing? How do we do this? And then we were starting to get some licensing deals, and we were starting to get some sales. And then COVID affected every small business. Everybody was touched, right? So we weren't alone in that tragedy, but we just held on and we're like, well, we'll just wait. But of course, tourism was down. People weren't coming to the beach. Nobody was traveling. So we really had a major setback. But we were lucky that, we survived that time period, and we were able just to kind of pull back. We didn't have employees. We didn't have a warehouse. We didn't have an office space where we're like, how are we going to pay? Everything was kind of done on site or at our home. So my father is the most positive human being I've ever known in my life. He always says, it's going to be all right. It's going to work out. Let's just keep going. Don't give up. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. I mean, he's integrated that into my head because I'm the one that would panic. Oh, what are we going to do? And Dad always said, it's going to be all right. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So we kind of live off that motto as well. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be all right. Here we are.
That's awesome. Yep. So, and then through COVID, I mean, what was kind of like the biggest lesson you learned, during COVID? And there's so many aspects of, the way that life changed really in the midst of the pandemic was, a lot of those things like really still stuck around. So, what did you find was kind of the biggest change that you had to make, with the brand during that time? And, which one of those things do you still kind of stick with to this day?
Well, primarily expect the unexpected. I mean, bottom line, there's no guarantees on anything. Mm-hmm. And, again, we find the blessings where we were fortunate. We watched a lot of businesses like a lot of people did. We weren't relying on that to fund our company, right? I mean, we were still a startup. So the fact that we even survived our startup phase was a blessing to us. But we weren't at the time because we were still just kind of launching. So also during that time as inventors, we were able to kind of focus on new product ideas and new inventions. So I kind of used that time instead of, crying about what's going to happen. I'm like, well, let's just pivot for a second. Let's just put this on hold and we'll just pivot for a moment and see what other creativity that we can come up with. And that's what I did. And that's how I launched my, pre-launching, not ready yet, our second product. So we have 2 patents on that and we have a utility patent pending. So, that was birthed through COVID while we were kind of on a standstill on the other.
That's awesome. And so let me just ask you, think about your kind of projections going into 2025. Which sides of the business do you see growing the most? And, how do you see the growth of this brand specifically relative to maybe years past on the, direct to consumer online side and also, on the retail side?
I think that Amazon is going to be a huge benefit to us. Again, we're not looking for the easiest way, but we're looking for the most productive way, right? So when you're a small inventor or you're a small developer, distribution is the name of the game, right? Distribution channels, how are you going to find them? And I walked the beach. I walked into these stores. You have to find the right person. Now, a lot has changed because we did a couple of trade shows, but unless you've got big money saved up to really promote yourself at a trade show, that can be very, very costly. Right. So I think that the distribution channel is the most important thing and viewing. So again, I think our efforts to move our product into Amazon, are the margins going to be a little bit less? Of course, probably so. But the audience is so much wider. You can have a great website. You can spend money and time building a website or your social media channels, but unless you're out there, no one's going to find you, and I counsel and teach a couple of young inventors now, and I let them know, this isn't easy. This is a long road. So we're hoping for some Amazon links and let people kind of see the product that's out there and let Amazon do what they do best. They have the algorithms to kind of match your product with, how you see, oh, you may like this because you bought this. And that's something that small independent people really can't do like these bigger portals can. And speaking of trade shows, there's also places now like Market Blast, there's Range Me, and I'm really happy about those companies that are partnering with other retail stores. So you sign up into their portal and you build a profile and you put your product in there, and then you could submit your brand to those different companies. They kind of took the place of some trade shows that weren't happening. So I think that was a really ingenious way to help small inventors as well.
Was that a COVID kind of breakthrough?
I think one of them definitely was. I can't speak for all of them, but they're relatively new. So yeah, I'm going to say that the brainchild came from some of COVID. And again, I'm not knocking trade shows. I think they're amazing. The energy, they're electric, they're fun, they're exciting to be at. But again, if you're a small entrepreneur and you have X amount of funding, it's a lot of money to put into. I mean, when we went, I told people, I built a booth on a budget, man. I mean, it was really tight of how to build your booth. But you have to have a booth that's going to be attractive for people to walk into and want to be in it as well. So
yeah, it's interesting. I've done massive trade shows. I have a background in the legal technology space, so obviously legal tech shows are not few and far between. There is hundreds of them a year, and we used to do them a lot, but there's so many competing products, and there's so much money in that sector too, where like it's really, really difficult to stand out as a smaller brand in that space. And I can imagine, at any trade show in any industry is probably similar. So yeah, no, that I definitely hear you on that.
I think some of them now are recognizing that, and I'll give kudos to that they're creating like an inventor's corner, an inventor space, new product space. And I think that's really cool because they are recognizing, how, this is why a lot of people give up on inventing. Or I've spoken to so many people, I go, I had this great idea. And then 5 years later, they see it on the market. They're like, and I go, look, man, first to file wins. You've got to get in there, the USPTO Patent and Trademark Office. And a lot of people are fearful of that as well. They've heard horror stories or it's so expensive. But the USPTO has a lot of programs, pro bono. They have a lot of assistance. It's always worth going and checking out their website. And I'm also a member of the National Inventor Club and Inventor Smart Community. Inventor Smart Community is an app that you can download, and it's a whole community of inventors at all different stages of development. So becoming a member there for the last 5 years has been just life-changing because I can connect and collaborate with other inventors. It's really cool, kind of see where they're at, and we kind of guide and help one another and connect and share different links and different ideas, or hey, I heard about this. So those things are cool to be involved with if you're a small independent inventor as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. I didn't know that existed. That's such a cool community to be a part of, I'm sure. And
well, the Inventor Smart Community app is the first of its kind, so I'm really proud to be a part of it from day one. It's the first app available for inventors. There's other inventor clubs in different parts of the states in the world, but this is the first app. So
that's really cool. So one question, I always ask this to every person that comes on the pod or that I do interviews with. Thinking about the last 6 years, if you could go back to your day one, all the things you've learned. I know this was it was a very new venture for you, doing product development for the first time and things like that. So, think about all the things you've learned. If you could go back and tell yourself something on day one of the inception of the brand, what would that one piece of advice be, do you think?
That's such a loaded question because we did find 10,000 ways that didn't work. Right? Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that I discovered is when we ran the first 1,000 units, we printed them all with our brand Yellow Dog on them. That'd be one thing I would do different because when we did introduce different images, we realized, people really want this image, right? They wanted that. So we had all these tables printed with our logo. And if I would have thought further, we could have put our small logo in the corner of the table on the rim of it, and then put the images that the consumer wanted in the front. Because when Dad and I were doing these like church events or little pop-up, like little craft shows or whatever, right? That was in our budget, and we did very well. People walking up, what is this? And they were buying, boom, right there. But we noticed that they were really drawn towards the ocean views, the sunset views. And then so we knew we had this inventory of pre-printed stuff. I also did one for Pride Week because it's such a big area for Pride Week. And then I put the date on it. And I mean, no to everyone, don't date anything, right? Because whatever we had left over, I still had it dated. So just little things like that. And I would have probably, I don't know. I mean, I think that was some of the major stuff. Listen, there's this kind of stuff that if you're going to do this, you better have tough skin, okay? And you're going to take a lot of rejection. And at first, when we were being rejected from different stores or licensing, or when we did a trade show and we spent all that money and people didn't like our price point, I remember saying to a few people, I'm like, look, you want American-made product, but you want the China price, right? You can't have it both ways. And there was sometimes it was frustrating that we were being treated like we were this big manufacturing company or distribution company when we weren't. We were smaller. So our price was only reflecting on what we were paying. So we learned a lot about, what the consumer was looking for. So that was a message too that I really kind of got vocal about. I'm like, look, everybody wants raw American-made product, which is great. We want to all support that. But you may pay 35 cents more. Yep. What's your bottom line of where's your willingness to support? So those are the things that we kind of learned along the way as well.
I think that's really good advice, and it's a great perspective for a lot of our listeners are younger entrepreneurs, or maybe even a more seasoned entrepreneur that is getting into a maybe a new area of business, like doing product development for the first time, kind of how like your experience was starting this brand, even though you've been an entrepreneur for some time. So I think that's really valuable advice. Like having to have thick skin, especially working with in the retail space is I mean it's like baseball. You're gonna fail most of the time, probably even more so than that. And you got to be able to work through those things and not have a fire drill every time you don't get a deal, or
don't take it so personally.
Exactly.
We come up with a great phrase around here. It's been said in the industry: fail fast, right? Fail fast. And as soon as somebody tells you no, thank you, and move on. Like, don't worry about it. You've got to move on really quickly. If you believe in your product and you believe that you have a valuable product for a consumer, then go with it. Go with it. The universe will kind of tell you when it's time to stop. Right. And even in our own personal experiences, that's why my dad always, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. And he's right. Every single time. I mean, I'm being a girl dad here. I mean, that was just really great, solid advice all the time. It's going to work out. It's going to be okay. And there were times where I was really frustrated, questioning, oh my God, we've spent $50,000, $60,000. What are we doing here? And he's like, it's going to be all right. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. And ultimately it is going to be all right. And I also think that, failing fast, or taking the rejection, taking the no's, and just keep going forward, keep pushing forward. Because if you listen to everybody that says they don't like your product, you're not going to get anywhere, right? I mean, you just won't. You'll just get that like so into your head that you'll just want to give up. And I'm not much on giving up. I can work around, move over it, move to the side, maybe even shelve it for a minute just to kind of regroup is always a positive thing too. And being involved with other inventors and other small groups for that motivation and that connection, I think is really important as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think that's really valuable advice, I think, for people to hear that are listening to the pod, because you're so blessed to have somebody like that in your life with your dad, to give you that perspective when, you might be stressed, to say, like, come on, just keep going. Like, everything's going to be okay. It was okay the last time. It's going to be okay this time too. So many people, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, come from this background of like, very, high individualism that try to do everything themselves, and, either don't seek out the advice or just don't have somebody there to, give them that kind of motivation or reassurance. So I think people very much, appreciate hearing that from you.
Good. Well, we're our own worst critics. I mean, there's a lot of chatter that goes on in your own head, right? It's like 6 different people are up there having the same conversation. And, not to get into all this, but I also advise meditation and to quiet your mind and to really just, quiet those thoughts a little bit. You'll be amazed at how many portals will open up just in the quietness of meditation in your mind to kind of guide you to the next step. But again, if you believe in your product and you believe what you're doing, there's so many avenues to sell now that there weren't even in the 90s. Don't lose the farm, right? But don't give up because 7 people said no. You know, if 1,007 people say no, maybe regroup and rethink. But what about that 8th person? What about that 8th retail chain that says, you know what, we love this? Or the timing has to be right. The timing. I mean, I can't tell you how many emails I would send, try to get to the right person. And, a list this long, and I'm 2 weeks later, I'm like, I still don't have anything. You got to go back to that list and email it over again. It's that slippery slope without being persistent, without being annoying. It's that delicate balance of that persistence, but, don't shut yourself out either.
Believe me, I can definitely resonate with this, with the sales enablement and kind of marketing background is, we used to preach go for the no. It's like, don't look for the yeses. You're going to drive yourself crazy. Like, look for somebody to say no. And then when the yeses come around, it's like, oh, well, that's great too. You know what I mean? Like, but you got to go for the no, meaning insofar as you have to put in the reps because that your success rate is going to be really low. So, if you're going for the no, you're not surprised to get the no. When you get the yeses, one, I think it feels even better, but also, you don't feel like everything you're doing, you're missing. If you're kind of going for no with that alternative perspective, I think it'd be really powerful. So,
well, exactly. Listen, we were approached from Shark Tank.
Really?
2 years prior to COVID. And, we did the quick online thing. And just like everybody else does, I didn't really think much more of it. Next thing you know, I get a call from one of the producers. Like, hey, we love your product. We want you to go round 2, the next step, which is sending in a video, a very extensive background check, huge application. So we did all of it. We got really excited. And we weren't allowed to talk about it publicly, right? So we had to keep everything kind of hush-hush at the time. And then we didn't get a call back. And they're not calling you to tell you you didn't make it. You just don't hear from them, right? Mm-hmm. So the next year came, and we got a second call from a producer. And, we're like, yeah, all right, let's do this again. So we went through the whole process again. Boom, nothing. I'm like, arr. And then the third time a producer called, and I remember this phone call, this poor guy, he's like, I'm so-and-so with Shark Tank. I'm like, yeah, what's up? Like, and he was telling me, I want you to apply again. I go, look, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I go, this will be our third time. I go, I don't know if I got it in me, to do all this again. And he goes, look, Sam, it takes 3, 4, 5 times to get on this show. He goes, I can tell you that you're still in the can. You're getting closer. And I'm like, you know what? Thank you for redirecting my thought process, mm-hmm. right? Because it was probably one of those times where I was questioning, what the heck am I doing here? And again, dad's like, let's go for it. Let's go for it. Let's go for it. And so we applied again. And then, of course, that dreaded COVID just smacked us, everybody, and just halted everything. But we were out so many times, and people would look at the product and they go, you should be on Shark Tank. You should be on Shark Tank. You should be on Shark Tank. And my dad and I would look at each other like, well, yeah, maybe. Maybe at the 3 times that we were waiting to be on Shark Tank without being able to tell the audience, yes, we're pending Shark Tank. We're waiting for Shark Tank. Right. But, these are the highs and lows of being an inventor and a product developer. I have a son. He's like, Mom, you don't have enough sales. Shark Tank is going to crush you. And I'm like, your mom's tougher than that. They can crush all they want. I don't care. I'll be all right. I've been crushed before. I can take it. Yeah. So
is that something you're still seeking out, is doing that again? Or is that kind of been on pause ever since COVID?
I would always welcome an opportunity for Shark Tank.
Yeah.
I think it's
you're just waiting
platform.
For another call, basically, at this point. There's not really any affirmative outreach you can do there to that guy? Or?
Well, no, you just keep applying. I mean, again,
I see. Yeah.
Like you said earlier, you kind of take your no on the chin. Okay, try again later. No on this time. The timing has to be right. The market has to be ready. We don't know on their end of what spaces they're looking for, right? Maybe they're only looking for candles or electronics or, there's a reason for everything of what's happening behind the scenes. It's the timing. And I tell people that all the time. I go, take those no's because that yes is coming. It has to. That's just the synergy of the universe. It has to. No, yes. So we kind of thrive on that. Yes, that is coming. If you give up and you walk away from your stuff, then you don't know. I mean, again, don't be crazy. Don't mortgage the house and lose the farm, right?
Right.
Think about what you're doing, but it's okay to pivot. It's okay to pull back, slow down, redirect, rethink, get the support of local groups, family, friends, and find people that are honest with you. I believe in my product. It's a cool product. It's not rocket science. It's a table for outside. It's cool. It weighs 2 pounds. It comes in a tote bag. Kids love to pour sand in it. It's a $20 table. And people, when they get it and they order another one and they tell me, I love this thing. I take it camping with me. We take it on the boat. Then I'm like, well, thank you. That's awesome. Just keep pushing forward, man.
Yep. That's awesome. So I want to give you an opportunity quickly as well. Just kind of plug your website, any socials you want people to know about. Anybody who might be listening, might be interested in following the company, following you. What's the best way for people to keep in touch with you?
The website for Yellow Dog is very simple, yellowdogtable.com. And all our social links are right there as well, but yellowdogtable.com. Again, we're made in the USA. We're a veteran-owned business. And I think those are cool things, too. I'm a veteran's daughter. I'm very proud of my father and his service of 27 years in the United States military. And, the sacrifices that he made along the way. And he loves doing this business with his daughter. We've had more fun just goofing up. He wears his Yellow Dog t-shirt everywhere. I mean, I tell him, I go, you are the top dog at Yellow Dog. He wore it to a little cafe. Yeah, he's great. He wore it in a little cafe, and the waitress came up to him. She goes, oh my God, Yellow Dog. She goes, I keep seeing that thing online. She goes, I need to get one of those. He goes, I got one in my car. And that waitress bought a Yellow Dog table because my dad was wearing a Yellow Dog table t-shirt.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I love that story.
I love that.
But again, back to what I was saying about the Facebook marketing, here's a perfect example. She kept seeing it and seeing it and seeing it. So she recognized it because Dad's wearing the Yellow Dog table gear, which is just really adorable if you think about it. Okay. Anyway, yellowdogtable.com. You can find us, and we'll do private labeling. We can ship to you. It's summertime is coming. I mean, just order one and you'll appreciate it when you get it.
That's perfect time. Samantha, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate the conversation. I think there's a lot of value here for anybody, but mostly our listener base of young entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs venturing off into new ventures. So I think there's a lot of value here. I really appreciate your time, and I really wish you the best of luck with everything we talked about today. I can't see anywhere but up for the future of Yellow Dog Table. So
hey, and kudos to you, man, for making this podcast and inviting guests on and doing what you guys do. I mean, it's a valuable service, so we appreciate it as well. Okay.
Awesome. Right. Thank you so much, Samantha. Thank you, everybody.
Welcome. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.